and our honorable dignitaries present with us this evening. We are back with another episode of the GCTC Yuva Manthan, where we lend our ears to another voice of the youth from from the region of Jammu and Kashmir. This forum and initiative was taken up by GCTC to bridge the gap between the people of Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh, along with the rest of the Indian populace, and of course, viewers everywhere else. So, just to start, my colleagues and I would like to thank the backend team in helping us make this happen. And we look forward to having a wonderful session with our guests and, of course, our dear audience.
Thanks a lot, Kavin, for the very warm welcome. As a non-profit international think tank, GCTC was, is, and always will be committed to in-depth research and analysis. Rather than taking time during the global pandemic, our drive to broaden our horizons has only been on the rise. So we are going to have you with us for this session, just so that we can keep the spirit of GCTC going and make sure that we have constructively used the time of this pandemic to reach out to as many people and as constructively as we can. Let me now introduce the panelists for the session. We have Mr. Kavin Ramesh with us, who just gave us a very warm welcome, who is currently pursuing his BA Honours in International Relations from IILM University. Next, we have Ms. Ananya Singh, who is currently who's currently on a gap year from her bachelor's in international relations from the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. And I am Bhavya Pandey, currently pursuing my bachelor's with honors in economics from Daulat Ram College, University of Delhi. My fellow colleagues and I are the research coordinators and the youth ambassadors of Global Counterterrorism Council, New Delhi. And we are beyond excited to take up this session with you all. I now hand over to Ananya to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Bhavya. Now, coming to the guest of honor for the afternoon, we have Mr. Asif Zahoor Malik from Srinagar. Mr. Asif has a master's degree in finance and project management and has worked in reputed companies like HCL Technologies. He was later also the chief financial officer of Metal Products Tanzania. And Mr. Asif's venture on his own was a construction company based in Kashmir itself back in 2010. He has continued on to be a construction contractor even today. Back in 2012, Mr. Asif started an international call center in Rangret, Kashmir, with 70 employees, which was one of the first of its kind over there. Mr. Asif, being in contact with several NGOs, contributed to the mass effort of helping those in Kashmir back in 2014 when several floods unfortunately struck the populace over there. So, Mr. Asif, that's quite the profile. Firstly, I would like to wish you an Eid Mubarak from all of us at GCTC.
Thank you very much, and we'll be celebrating Eid tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so let's get on with the Yuva Manthan. So firstly, could you give us some background about yourself? Tell us about your childhood in the valley. Walk us through your journey as a youth, and just more any information or background you'd like to let us know about yourself.
Yeah, I'll introduce myself as with my full name. My name is Asif Zahoor Malik. I am born and brought up in Srinagar itself. I have studied in one of the best schools of J&K, that is Burnhall School. And the life back then was pretty comfortable and it was peaceful. And with the time, things got disturbed in J&K, mostly in Kashmir part. I have done my bachelor's from Islamia College, which is in downtown. And after that, I went to Delhi and I joined HCL Technologies. So it was a pretty good experience altogether because being in Kashmir, we were limited to certain things. And after joining HCL, I got to know a lot about the rest of the India. Means different culture. We were not only Muslims or non-Muslims there, and they were means different cultures. People who do not follow religion also, they were also there. So it was a complete experience altogether. And with the time, I plan to start a call center in Kashmir because we have call centers in Kashmir, like for telecom companies like Vodafone and Airtel, but they can't generate that much employees or employment here. So what I did is we started with a group of my friends. We started an international call center here that was called as PC Planet. We started with like 5-10 employees, and we went up to 70, and it was going pretty good. But due to certain situations, we have to minimize it to 20 people because of the situations, because the internet was shut down at the moment sometime, and we were not able to go in full strength. Then later on, I left J&K and I went to Tanzania, where I was Chief Financial Officer in Metal Products. It's a group company of Comcraft International. It is almost in 63 countries. And it was a completely different culture, what you say, than what I had seen in Kashmir, then in Delhi and rest of the states. It was a completely different thing altogether. It was a lovely experience. I came back in 2015 ending, and 2015, and in 2016 we had another problem in J&K, that Burhan Wani got killed. And because of that reason, the business which I started here, I had to shut it off. And I incurred a lot of losses in that. With the time, I didn't give up, and I started my own construction company. And still I'm with that. I'm still doing construction, means private plus government. I have both the projects. So after the abrogation of Article 370, there were a lot of things which happened in J&K. Means it happened in last year to August 5th, and till today we are suffering. Suffering as in the work got affected. We are not able to do anything. On top of that, this COVID pandemic thing happened. And now the thing is like, I'll tell you my opinion about this. This is like when I visit the banks, I see worry on people's faces. I see people are very tensed when they talk to each other. It is not like the Kashmiri used to be. Means Kashmiri always was fun-loving, and means they never wanted to bother anyone. If in case anything happens to them, they used to say, "Okay, it's okay. You should chalan." It's a common phrase in Kashmiri, "You should chalan." It happens. But due to certain reasons, these things happening, I am also getting worried now, because now I'm at that stage wherein I can't take more risks in terms of business. So this is the thing. We are suffering right now, and this the attack which was on. I'll tell you certain things. The attack which was on the army convoy back in 2019, I condemn that. And now because of that thing, now after Mr. Rajnath said that that nobody will be allowed to get into the convoy. Right now, as we are doing this debate, a Kashmiri will be thrashed somewhere in Kashmir. At this point, somebody is getting thrashed and somebody is getting killed also. So these things should not happen. What as a Kashmiri I want is peace. When I go to Delhi or any other state in India, they usually ask me a question which pinches me a lot. That is, do you want Pakistan? Do you want to go to Pakistan? Are you, indirectly they want to ask me, are you a terrorist? No, I'm not a terrorist, but I want peace. I want peace for myself. I want peace for everyone. It is not like if in case a non-Muslim is killed, it will not hurt me. It hurts me. A human is killed. A life is gone. They have a family. So people needs to understand a Kashmiri, if in case he is asking for something, that doesn't mean he is anti-national, or that doesn't mean he wants peace for Muslims and not for non-Muslims. For example, if it means our Kashmiri Pandit brothers left Kashmir, I'm very sad for that. I am very sad for that, because our culture is culture till we are like one. Means Kashmiri Pandits and Kashmiri Muslims and Kashmiri Sikhs and everybody else who is here. Means if we are together, then only we are Kashmiris. So if in case you have any questions.
Sir, that was like a very moving opening statement for sure. But on a lighter note, could you tell us something about what it was like growing up in the Kashmir Valley, and before all of this happened, before the contemporary things happened, just how was the culture and just your childhood and everything in the valley?
Yes, for sure. Living in Kashmir was very easy, and in the sense you could go anywhere. Means as a child, there are some restrictions nowadays that you can't go there, you can't go that side or any side, because there are security forces at one side. When I was in school, I have seen every waterfall. I have swam in every river of Kashmir. I have crossed Dal. I have done swimming in everything, even in dams or whatever. So my childhood was very fun. And once I joined Islamia College of Science and Technologies, which is in Howell, downtown, there is a cave. I was very excited about that. And there is a cave which is said like it is 25 kilometers till that cave is for 25 kilometers. I was very excited. And what happened is I told my friend, it's a little incident. And I told my friends, let's go and let's see it. It's a restricted area. So we tried and we were not able to go from one side of the cave. So another friend told me that I know the other side of the cave. Let's go from that side. It was on, it is called Mugdum Sahib. There is a fort kind of thing. We went from that side and it was a restricted area. We got caught and we were thrashed by CRPF for like 30 or 40 minutes. And that thrashing, I still remember, it was like 12 people beating 3 kids. So these things happened and we never took it on our heart that that guy, that person who thrashed us was a Muslim, non-Muslim or whatever. It never came in my mind because we never had that kind of thinking that what is Muslim, what is non-Muslim. I mostly have most of the friends are non-Muslims. I am still in touch with them. When I joined HCL, I had a lot of friends who were from different cultures, and even there are some people who don't believe in religion as well. So being a Kashmiri, there were a lot of questions. Once anybody from outside J&K will see you, they will put questions on you. So the first question used to be, do you want to join? Do you think that Kashmir is integral part of India? Second question was, what do you think about terrorism? Are you a terrorist? So these were the questions. But being honest with you, I never took it on my heart. And I let it go because, being honest with you, this is a disputed international disputed territory. It is declared internationally. So even if in case Pakistan or India is saying that this is our internal matter, but it's not now. As per me, it's my opinion. I'm not saying that India or Pakistan should say same things what I say. It's my opinion. Means I have the right to tell these things because I think that now things have it's over the head. We are suffering a lot. And anything else you want to ask me?
Yes, sir. So cataloging the sensitive events faced by the people of the region, be it the issue of militancy or the mass exodus of the Kashmiri Pandits, and the constant threats of political interference. So, have these issues in one way or the other led to a religious divide, or but according to you, has it had an adverse effect on the understanding and the generational togetherness that obviously exists between the, as you said, that even the youth of Kashmir itself is very diverse. So has it had an adverse impact on the togetherness of the people or something like that?
I don't think so, because if in case one means I have a lot of Kashmiri Pandit friends. When they come to Kashmir, they move the same way as I do. They don't feel like they are at a different place, and these things affect, means for example, when Kashmiri Pandits left Kashmir and they went to different culture, means they had a different vast culture and they had to leave that. They went to a different place, they had to adapt that thing. We, being very honest with you, we Kashmiri, be it Kashmiri Pandit, Kashmiri Sikh, we have a different culture from rest of the area. Means I don't know whether you will understand this or not, but we have a different culture. We don't mingle up very easily, but we mingle. Okay. And once we mingle, you will feel, you will take us as your family member. It is like that only. See, I have my friends, they say that when, means they don't know when they left, their parents tell them stories, what happened and things like that. They ask me, means I was the guy who means people used to ask me, my friends used to ask me, non-Muslim used to ask me, if in case they had any questions about Kashmir or religion, they used to ask me. And my friend used to ask me, in Kashmiri, he used to ask me, that means, why did you guys let us go? I said, see, being honest with you, if in case you want to come, I'll make a house for you. I am into construction. I'll make a house for you. I'll be there as a security guard. I'll leave all my jobs. I'll be as a security guard for you. Don't worry. You come back. I'll tell you one simple one incident in this. One day I was in Delhi. I was feeling cold. People usually tell me that you're not a Kashmiri because you feel cold a lot. So somebody told me, you look for one gas heater on OLX. OLX was a different app for me that day. Somehow I typed on OLX that I need a gas heater and things like that. There was one guy, he called me and he said that I have a gas heater, you take it. I'm moving from Gurgaon to Pune, so you take it. I told him, give me your number, I'll call you. I called him and he was a Kashmiri Pandit. And when we heard each other, means we could understand each other very well. He told me, you come down to my place and take this gas heater without any charges. That was for 6,000-7,000 rupees. And he told me, no, now you have to come to my place. You have to have lunch with me. And then you take this gas heater without paying anything. I was so emotional at that point of time. I told him that, where do you used to live in Kashmir? He gave me the address. I told him, you come back. I will make sure I'll stay outside your house. I'll make a small room for myself there. I'll stay as a guard over there, but you come back. So we also want that Kashmiri Pandits and everybody should come back. We should live in peace and harmony. We want, what actually a Kashmiri wants is peace. That's it.
First of all, that was very touching, and we see a pattern as well. A lot of Kashmiri people that we interacted with, whether it be the Kashmiri Pandits or the Kashmiri Muslims or the Kashmiri Sikhs, the togetherness and the willingness to be together again, that's always been seen, and we really love that, and we just hope the media can actually show more of that. So another question that I want to bring to the discussion here, some of the things that stand out of your profile was the contribution that you made to the people of Kashmir. So you started an international call center there, one of the first, and you've also been in contact with a lot of NGOs in order to help the people in need during the unfortunate floods that struck the people of Kashmir a few years back. So could you talk to us about that? What were the circumstances in your end? What led you to take up these initiatives, and what challenges did you face given the fact that it was an unstable region, unfortunately?
Yes, that was kind of a turning point for me. In 2014, I was in Delhi when flood struck Kashmir, and all the communication with my family also got disconnected. Means I wasn't able to contact with them. I was, though we live in flood area. I live in area wherein normally flood comes, so we are a little bit prepared than other regions like Rajbagh or Jawahar Nagar or any Bagat, Sanat Nagar. Though Sanat Nagar was not affected, I live in Lasjan, that is a flood area. So once I lost connection with my family, I told I got a connection in Kashmir, and he told me I can go to your house and see and give you information. But he went there, means he went at a certain distance from my place, that is approximately 3 kilometers, and he wasn't able to move ahead from there. And I saw an aerial view of my area, which was given by government website, and I wasn't able to see houses. I mean, it looked like everything was flat. Means houses were under the water. I got scared. I had my flight was to Kenya. I had to fly to Kenya within 2 days. But I canceled my flight and I joined Helpore Voluntary Trust. It is one of my friend's father is the member of that trust. I called him and I said that, see, things are getting very hard in Kashmir. We have to make sure that we supply food and other necessary items to Kashmir. And if in case we are able to do that, then our mission will be successful. So they said, without boats, we won't be able to do anything. Without boats, we won't be able to reach any area because there are already less boats in J&K. So I contacted a guy who is in London, and he told me he will send me 30 boats. And fortunately, it reached us within 3 days. And then we started collecting items, and we collected money. We purchased items like eatables and medicines and everything. Now the problem was to get it to Kashmir. It was really hard because flights were cancelled. Some of the flights were cancelled and the road was closed. Fortunately, we met the director of Jet Airways. Yeah. And he said, you can take everything for free. I know you are facing problem right now. You guys, what you do is you take, you don't have to pay for anything. You pay for your tickets and things, you take it for free. Means you don't have to pay for the carriage for that. So we joined hands with many NGOs, and fortunately they were very helpful. Not only Muslims helped in that case, mostly non-Muslims helped. I got a call from a guy who is, I don't remember his name, sorry, who was in Nehru Place. He called me, he said, I have certain things, you come and you collect it, but make sure you get a little box. I said, okay, fine. We went there and he gave us insulin for diabetic patients. He gave us insulin. It was worth approximately maybe 70,000-80,000, and he said, don't use my name. And I said, why don't you want? He said, no, it's I'm giving it, so I don't want to use my name, just take it. And things like that happen. Some people gave means everything, whatever they had, they gave. We got to Kashmir, and I met my parents for one day, means not even one day, for 10-15 minutes. Then this Help or Voluntary Trust, in association with Rahim Motors, they gave us their vehicles. Being honest with you, I haven't seen such person. Abdul Hamid is his name, the director of Rahim Motors. He gave his own vehicle. He said, go to far places and see if people are okay. Then we went to many places wherein government could not reach. We reached everywhere. We tried to reach everywhere, and Alhamdulillah, we were successful. And after that, this pandemic, we again started with my friends because there was no such communication also. We joined hands and we collected money, and we gave a package in which we gave 10 kgs of rice, 5 kgs of atta, dal, tea bags, and many more oil and many more things, so that it can go for at least 1 month. So it was a great thing that people appreciated that you guys did this. And many people in this also, non-Muslim also contributed, and they never said you should give it to my community only. They never said this thing. This is the diversity of Kashmir. This is the Kashmiriyat of Kashmir. Kashmiri always want the other person should be happy. I, being a Kashmiri, I always want my friends should be happy. Everyone around me should be happy. We should have peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Your compassion is truly very inspiring. But now we should come to the elephant in the room. We'd like to have an understanding of your view on the whole Article 317 saga and reorganization of the article past 2019. What, in your opinion, did the government set out to accomplish with this move? How was it implemented? Was it implemented well? There are certain laws like the Triple Talaq law or the Atrocities Act that affect the culture of Kashmir as well. So how do you think this has affected Kashmir as a society, and what did the central government plan to accomplish? Is it being implemented well?
Yes. I'll tell you very honestly that this Article 370 was removed, and it was removed as like they wanted to kill us. Okay, it was unorganized. Like all of a sudden, yatris were taken out of Kashmir, and means we didn't know what's happening. The youth of Kashmir was taken to different jails. They were jailed, and still some of them are in jails. Kids of age 10, 15 or less, they are also jailed. And when it got so shabby that we were very shocked to see that such thing has taken place, wherein everybody was like, it will not be removed, it will not be removed, but at the end of the day, it got removed. And I don't know how people outside J&K take it as removing of Article 370. They were really very happy. If in case you want Kashmir, you tell us directly that you want Kashmir. You want Kashmir without Kashmiris, that's also okay. Okay. But doing things like this, I don't see it on the genuine line what was done that time. People suffered. Means, being very honest with you, we suffered. We died inside our houses. Means we were not allowed outside. People were very much like, what's happening? Internet was shut down. Phone lines were off. Uh, lot of people were thinking that something bad is going to happen in Kashmir, because most of the Kashmir, as you know, that in Kashmir there is very less opportunity of getting a job. Mostly Kashmiri, what they do is they go outside Kashmir, J&K. Even in Jammu, they go outside J&K uh, and they also move abroad. Removing of Article 370, as per me, I must say that it wasn't a right decision that time. Why didn't they consult people that this is the thing what we are planning? Or means there should be a thing what a Kashmiri should know what's happening with Kashmir. It's not like you do anything and you tell me later on that okay, I did this thing on your behalf. No, a Kashmiri should have been consulted or anything of that sort. I don't know what exactly should I tell you about this, but we should have consulted. We being Kashmiri should have been consulted or asked our opinions about this. But it was not, and you took a decision in Delhi and you implemented it in Kashmir. I don't know. Were you trying to grab our neck and tell us that you have to go this way, or you were trying to slap us and tell us no, you have to be this way? Now coming back to triple talaq, being honest with you, I had never seen a Muslim giving such kind of thing to his wife. I have never seen, or I have never heard about this, being honest with you, that talaq, 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 and she's she's a divorcee, or that guy. If in case it gives in any, maybe in any other state, or maybe some people might think that this is good for Kashmiri woman, but I have never seen this thing. Being honest, I can't comment on this. To be very honest with you guys, yeah.
Yes, sir. Taking the conversation regarding the fact that you mentioned that the entire decision of abrogating the article was not implemented properly, and it was a very haphazard decision in a way. How important is the internet as a right and as a commodity in Jammu and Kashmir for both the working population and the curious youth, given that the government and the situation about the entire propaganda on the internet, misinformation being spread, online brainwashing. There are so many aspects, but at the same time, the internet is a very essential commodity. And even during the time of the pandemic, we can't even imagine living without it. This conversation would not have been happening without it. So, what sort of a context do you think it brings into the entire situation, especially for the youth in Kashmir?
See, when I got to know about this discussion is going to happen, I had to make sure that I leave my place 1 hour before to reach my friend's place. And he had to go to his, he has to go somewhere. And I told him, no, you have to stop because I have to, I have one meeting, or I have one discussion forum to go on. See, being honest with you, I am from a background, call center background. I had to shut down my call center because of internet problems. First thing, I started online grocery, but I had to shut it down. I have started a lot of things which are related on internet, but I had to shut it down because internet is not working. If in case you see 2G services means you can't even make a video call on 2G service, means on Google Meet. We can't do anything. Internet if in case in pandemics, if in case a doctor wants to see anything from the internet, because internet is the source of information nowadays. So there is no such thing what a person can do. See, if in case, being honest with you, I'm very bad in spellings. So I usually go on internet and I check it, and I even check the meaning. If in case you ask me spelling of anything right now, if in case I try to type it on 2G, it won't give me the answer. So you're getting my point. So internet is very important aspect, as in means uh, everything is on internet nowadays. It is like, without internet you won't be able to even go to a different place where you don't know. Means if in case you don't have Google Maps nowadays, if you will be lost. My call center, I have 110 seater call center, and right now there is a lock, just because internet services wasn't working on time. I had to shut it down. Now they are telling me that you can take the lease line and you can go ahead with that. But I don't think so that 3 months gap, after building 3 months gap for the internet, my clients will come back. They're saying no, without internet we won't be. You give us a surety. Initially, I gave a surety to my clients that the downtime, the downlink will be 98% will be uplink, means there will be no problem with the internet. And it happened that for 3 months, I wasn't able to contact them that don't transfer your calls to India, because they will not route anywhere. I wasn't able to tell them. And then I had to get permission, and I went to Delhi and I called them, and they said that your contract is void, and I suffered 9 lakh rupees in that for 3 months. So the situation in J&K till now has given me a great loss as financially, but I am still trying. Let me be honest with you. I'm starting a new call center in J&K with almost 26 people will be sitting here, and they will not. They will be they will be from different religion. As as I explained it to the client, that I will take 2 people from every religion, and we will start that inshallah very soon.
Yes, sir. Just a very short follow-up question to that. You talked about how the pandemic is also affecting the situation quite adversely. Could you share a few more experiences along that line? Maybe, obviously, the fact that because of the pandemic, everything is virtual and virtual is not possible in Kashmir. Things have been very, very adverse. So what are the other things that maybe might not seem obvious to people who are not in Kashmir because they are not facing it firsthand, or maybe things that are being overlooked, something like that, maybe?
Regarding this pandemic, see, recently I contacted a positive patient, though I didn't touch him, and we had an interaction. And after that, I got to know that he's positive. He wasn't himself aware of that. I went for a test. When I went there, people were unaware of the things that what's happening, what exactly needs to be done. People were means I personally told many people there that you have to follow certain guidelines. You have to stay, means you have to keep a distance of maybe 4 or 5 feet, so that you don't get because the COVID center is the center wherein you can get, because nobody knows who is having COVID, who is COVID positive that time. So for the information's sake, we need internet to give information to people who are not actually aware of these things. I'll tell you a story about this. I had a barbender who normally binds the construction material, means the TMT bar. And one day I told him that I'll send you an SMS. You call on that number. He said, I don't know how to read SMS. And I said, okay, fine. And one day he told me, do you know that there is a machine which can automatically make the rods bend? I said, how do you know? He said, I'll show you on YouTube. I said, you can't read SMS, and now you're telling me that you can do such things. He said, yes, I can do that. I can do that. That is the power of internet. An uneducated person can do such things, means use of internet. He has started, means people have started, but now again the 2G has hampered all those things. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Now, the political situation in Kashmir was fluctuating and was very active, like before the pandemic. So, how do you think, like, the lockdown, the pandemic, all of that has affected the political situation in Kashmir? And how has the COVID response been in Kashmir? Has the army played any certain roles? Have the youth and army been working together? What's the political atmosphere during COVID like, and what's the help of the army like?
I think all the politicians were jailed that time when this thing happened, and they will not be able to do anything. The politicians, and as you know that we don't have any, we are now UT, so Lieutenant Governor will be taking decisions on this. And I see that they are trying their level best, but when you have a proper government, they are better, because you can't normally do such things. It means people know what they need in their areas, and they have done their research. Politicians were means behind bars when all these things happen, and I think it's going good. It's not that bad. The situation is not that bad when it comes to administration. But the thing is, like, the COVID patients are rising, means the positive patients are on rise. I have been to Sovra Medical Institute, and they said that every day 300 to 400 people come here, and they are COVID positive, and now we don't have space for them. Recently, one of my known person was declared as positive, and he was told to sit at home, to quarantine himself at home. And this is the situation wherein we have to make sure that these things are taken very seriously. If in case we take it lightly, this thing can increase. Means when these tests were started, means increase in the numbers, then only we got to know that there are a lot of people who are suffering from this COVID. And I think center should also intervene in this. Means if in case they want to put a lockdown, they should take a decision on this, because on an average every day we are getting 500 positive patients in Kashmir, which is a lot for Kashmir, because Kashmir in Srinagar itself every day it's like 150, 200. So that's a big number for us. And if in case they want us to shut down again, but there should be a proper plan. It should not be like from tomorrow it's lockdown and people will die without food. And being very honest with you, and one more thing I want to tell you, that Kashmiri people can survive for some time, but we have been sitting home since 5th August 2019. People need to understand that we are also human, and we also need basic things, what other people need. This thing is hampering, this thing is not taking us towards towards the government, because the center is being very careless about Kashmir. be it is pandemic or after abortion of Article 370. So center needs to take a look what Kashmiri people, youth, what they want. Just take feedback from people, and it will means everything will be clear to them also. Means what if in case you ask me, what do you want as a person? I want peace. That's it. I want peace for us, peace for everyone. I don't want a policeman, army, CRPF, or beat anyone to die in Kashmir. I want everyone to live peacefully, and nobody should suffer from such kind of things. Thank you.
And as if 2020 didn't have enough problems for India, or we've come across the Indo-China standoff, unfortunately. As a person from Kashmir, how much knowledge is there of this situation, and what is the opinion? Is there any opinion being formulated by the Kashmiri youth regarding the Indo-China standoff? Because it is a sort of known fact that Pakistan and China somewhat work together on multiple notions. So, what is the opinion of the Kashmiri youth, and are they completely aware given the internet problems and censorship?
See, being very honest with you, I think Kashmiri youth now is they only want peace. They are not concerned whatever is happening. Now they have suffered a lot vis-a-vis the situation, what is happening around, means encounters and everything, what is happening. So normal common people is suffering. Even if in case there is an encounter, the entire house is brought down. And as once a person, means once you go in, means once you start earning, you know what's the value of money. Till the time you earn your father's money, that's okay. Once you start earning your own money and you try to build something, and all of a sudden it's broken down, means it is a problem. So everything means what Kashmiri youth should think, India should have asked them before abolishing of Article 370. These things should have been asked very upfrontly what youth wants. We are not concerned with China. Whatever they are, means what they want is they want a piece of India, right? So it's the army who has to fight with them. Being a Kashmiri, I can't do anything. My hands are like this. So I don't have weapons in my hand. I can't fight. Even though, let me tell you that I have joined NCC when I was in my college. I have BNC certified. I'm a combat trained person. I have trained for 3 years continuously. And if in case people will tell me that you hate army or you hate non-Muslims, I have also been a part of them for a lot of time. Means for 3 years I was being shifted from one camp to another and another to another, and I have lived with mostly non-Muslims. So this is a clear message that we don't want anything to happen to the security forces which are coming from different parts of India or from Kashmir itself. There is a unit called Jaklai, in which mostly they are Kashmiri. So is it like we want to thrash them, or is it like we want to abuse them? Nothing is like that. It's only like we want peace. Kashmiri youth wants peace. A one-time solution should be given to us with peace. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Now, what would you say constitutes as your own plan for development for the region of J&K? And what areas do you think that the government should work on and develop? And how the rest of the Indian populace outside the region can help this process of development? Where would you like the army and the government to develop more and work on more?
See, Kashmir is a tourist place, is a tourist destination. Removing Article 370, there should be a guideline that the construction, there should not be construction on such places wherein the beauty should be like affecting. If in case it is like more, if in case we have infiltration or people are coming from border areas, we have to strict our borders, not to strict the inside areas wherein you put more and more army. Just conceal the borders so that the infiltration is not happening. Now, government should more and more support tourism in J&K. We have more beautiful places in Jammu also. I have been to Jammu. When I saw the outskirts of Jammu, it's really beautiful. And government should take initiative in supporting tourism in Kashmir. See, I'll tell you, in manufacturing, government should start manufacturing units, and the government should support manufacturing in J&K. Unless and until the train facilities wherein you can get raw material to Kashmir, it will be very expensive raw material in J&K, because I have done my research. I'll not tell you without facts. So there are a few manufacturing units here in Kashmir, like there is Kashmir Steel. He's also manufacturing in Himalaya Group. You might have heard about it. They manufacture steel over here, but it's like it gets expensive when it comes to here. We get cheaper steel from Jammu and Delhi. It's because the raw material which comes to Kashmir is getting expensive. So I would suggest more and more. I would suggest if Government of India will initiate more and more towards tourism.
All right. And sir, so how would you suggest that people that live outside the area of Jammu and Kashmir and other youths like us, how do you think we can contribute positively to the situation, whether it's virtually or in any other way? What do you think people living outside can do to make any contribution whatsoever?
Firstly, I would suggest is people outside J&K should visit Kashmir first. Then only they will get to know what they need to do. I would suggest certain things, but it won't be justifying that. You need to visit Kashmir, and you need to see how you can help, how you can you can give your hand to give betterment to Kashmir. Not like this. I can't suggest like this unless and until you people visit Kashmir. Yes.
So I think we can go with the questions from the audience. So just to take up the first question, it's by Kunal Agarwal, who's a research coordinator with us. What initiatives can the Kashmiri youth take to attract foreign tourists, as they have mostly been absent from the Kashmiri tourism sector? I'm guessing because of the abrogation of 370 and onwards.
Sorry. I have a small addition to make to that question before you answer it. Kunal also has a follow-up. He says that if military presence is reduced, can tourism be given a boost? And I have my own follow-up to that, which is not just I'm sorry for bombarding you with questions, but I feel like if not just in the tourism sector, I feel like youth engagement towards peacemaking and peace building is very important. Recently, the United Nations Security Council also approved a bunch of resolutions which talked about how youth needs to be involved in the peace building and peace making processes. So if you have anything that you think can be done, if maybe you could share that as
well. Firstly, when it comes to youth of Kashmir, we have to engage them in tourism related things. But you see that mostly what happens here is that people get scared to come to Kashmir when it comes to this thing. I have a friend who is from Mumbai, and one day he told me, यार वहाँ पे तो बोफोर्स चल रहे हैं, and how do you survive? I said, कहाँ पे? He showed me an article and he showed me a link. He sent me a link wherein really Bofors was used. Means the guns were fired and everything was. I said, this is on the border, which is approximately 250 kilometers away. And how will it affect me here in Srinagar? He said, ये तो एक ही चीज है ना, कश्मीर जैसे मुंबई है, मुंबई तो इतना बड़ा है लेकिन एक साइड में हो जाएगा. I said, no, this is border. Border is something different from Srinagar. You can come down anytime and you can see things here. Now, engaging youth is already engaged in this tourism thing. You see a lot of people. I'll tell you, there is a restaurant in recently started a restaurant in Liberty Cafe. Have you heard about it? You just Google it. It's a really beautiful restaurant made in Kashmir in Dr. Alijan complex. Means that is out of the world, the restaurant. But he made it. Now, if the tourist will not come, how will it means? How will it means local can go there? Locals go there, but main attraction is tourism. When tourists will come, he will see things there. He will also boost up hotels. You see lot of, firstly, there is lot of paperwork once anyone is constructing a hotel. He needs to get building a hotel is easy, but to get the permission for that is very tough. We get permission, pollution permission, pollution control board should also give permission. Another environment also should give permission. Everything is to be done. All the things have been done. Now the government has to take the initiative. If in case, see, the army is removed from certain areas, it is a tourist destination. Being honest with you, the army locations are the best tourist destinations. Wherein the army is right now are the best tourist destinations. You see on Google Maps also, Google Earth, you will see the most beautiful things are taken by army. So I'm not saying you take out full army. Till the time everything is sorted, we can do that. Yes.
All right. So we have another question from Himanshu Patil. He's also a GCTC member. And he asks, don't you think that in order to deoperationalize 370, the Sunni monopoly on power and politics and the persecution of the Shia, Buddhists, castes, atheists, LGBT community and gender minorities in the region allowed the government and handed the government an excuse to rally around and justify the move and gain support for the move of abolition of Article 370?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Being honest with you, according to me, it was illegally done. So rest you all guys know.
So the question more like asks about like basically the monopoly that the Sunni people have over a lot of the politics and the persecution of a lot of minorities. So do you think that had a hand in the government being able to gain a lot of support for this move?
No.
Small interjection, or rather, I feel like reframe the question and maybe stated as Himanshu asking whether or not you think the Sunni hegemony has allowed the operation of the Article 370 to actually take place on ground. Something along those lines. How do you think that factors into the current situation, essentially?
When it comes to Shia Sunni, and I don't think so it is here. If in case people think like this is here in Kashmir. I don't think so. Just now before this conversation, me and my Shia friend, we were having a conversation, and it was like it is not, nothing is like that here. Means religiously we are okay, and means you are minding your religion, I am minding my religion. This has to do with this thing? I don't know. There is any domination or anything of that sort here. Means nobody is dominating anyone here.
I think just to follow it up, Himanshu had also asked a second question. Given that now Jammu and Kashmir is a union territory along with Ladakh, isn't that taking away power from the Kashmiri and from the people of Jammu and Kashmir, despite the government claiming that they would want to protect the people of Jammu and Kashmir? Given that because it's a union territory, there's a lack of solid legislature right now. Given that you have to follow a lieutenant governor rather than an entire state government with ministries at hand.
I didn't understand that question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So basically, with the state government, you actually had a proper legislature where people could understand what the government wanted to do. So what Himanshu is asking is, given that now Jammu and Kashmir is a union territory, is that taking away the power of the people? Is that taking away that power? Is the government monopolizing that power?
Yes, that is the thing. See, they were the departments were means there were different departments for different things. Means for you know, when you go to secretariat, you have a different set altogether, wherein you can discuss your problems with different departments. Now the thing is like, see, people make can kind of explain their problems, and they can what can I say? They want to get their problem resolved. They want to get their problem resolved, but they want somebody who listens to them, who can understand them very well. That will be a Kashmiri itself. See, in Jammu there is a different department, and in Kashmir there is a different departments. Means same department is working there also, same department is working here also. Okay, so the gap of understanding from Kashmiri to Kashmiri is a bit different. What I can say is, if in case you have different departments working, like Ministry of Health is different, Ministry of Commerce is different, and Ministry of Animal Husbandry is different. If there is, this is diverted to their own departments. And see, for example, if in case we used to have any problem, we used to visit our minister, who used to be MLA or anything in the concerned area. He used to take our problems. Maybe he used to talk to higher authorities, and it was later on it used to get resolved. But now there is a different way altogether. We also need to adapt this now, because Article 370 is gone now. So we have to adapt. It will take some time. Maybe it will be better. I have no idea as such, because I haven't been to any department as of now. So still, maybe with the time, we have to adapt certain things.
Okay, sir. Now we have another question from another GCTC member called Ishan, who says, as Kashmir has been the place of conflict from many years, and recently passed CAA has been seen as an issue in the country, what impact has the Citizenship Amendment Act left on the people of Kashmir, and what possible consequences can be foreseen in Kashmir because of this act?
Nothing. Kashmiri are not worried about CAA. They have seen a lot. So I don't know what impact it will make in future, but right now there is no such impact on Kashmiri people because of CAA.
Okay, sir. We also have a question from Aditya, sir, about what's your opinion on what the central government can do for Kashmiris like you, since it's a union territory now?
First, internet should be restored. Okay. Second thing is we should also be allowed to move on. Means, see, I have some problems which are there. See, once I come out of my house, I have to wait till the time the convoy moves. Okay, the convoy moves, and then if in case the convoy is in front of me, I have to wait for 20 minutes, and I'll be stopped after every 10 minutes. Means if in case I'm on the highway, they stop me till the time the convoy is not visible to me. So these things should be being considered, and moving with the convoy should be allowed. Second thing is like, initially, I'll tell you an incident. What happened is, I was on highway, and all of a sudden, tipper driver was overtook a army vehicle, and they stopped him because I was driving behind him, and they stopped him, and uh, approximately 30-35 people came down, army people uh, with their lathis and everything, and they started beating him. Okay, they they thrashed him so much that he felt unconscious, and a policeman was standing next to me. I told him that, like, you should save him. He said, I can't do anything, because now the law is like, even if in case they kill him, I just have to take his body. That's it, what I can do. So consider Kashmiri as humans. It should be the first point, rather than being a second. Consider Kashmiri as human. I'll tell you one more incident which happened with me recently. I went to Old Airfield, which is in Rangret itself, next to my office. I came out, convoy was moving. I stopped. One army guy told me to stop. I stopped. I turned off my car, and I was waiting for things to go. And all of a sudden, from the wrong side, another convoy came. I couldn't see. I started my car and I was leaving. He stopped my car. He abused me. He abused my mother. He abused my sister. And he started banging my car. And he told me, I lowered my window a little bit because I didn't open the car locks. My car was locked. I rolled down my window. I told him what happened. He said, "आज तुझे दिखाते हैं कि क्या चीज है हम." I said, "Okay, fine. So what I have to do?" He said, "गाड़ी side में करो. I'll show you." And he called few more people, army. He called army guys, and they came, and uh, with their weapons and all that. And once I got, they told me to come out. I came out of my car, and fortunately, there was one of my friend who was moving from that side, and he got out of his car, and he told me what happened. I said, this thing happened. He told them that let him go, and they didn't listen to him. They tried to thrash me, but he showed his card. He is major in army, even though he's a Sardar, and he stopped for me. He told them that why are you doing this thing? Why you are abusing him? Why you are abusing his mother? This will make, for example, if in case he is angry, he can do anything in future. So don't try to mingle up with Kashmiri people. Don't do such things. And that day, I make out that there are good people also who believe if in case you do good things will happen. But majority, when you are given orders from higher authorities that you can do anything, then they will do anything.
I think that actually kind of ended on a positive note. It showed that there is always good left, that we should not lose hope regarding no matter what the situation is. And,
yes.
And I'm glad that we still have some sort of understanding that the Kashmiri people are Indians and we will all take you as our own. There's no separation. There's no legislative understanding whether things are different here or not. Unfortunately, our time is up. But again, we just wanted to hear from you your final comments on how this interaction has been and how we can go on from here.
This interaction should have started long back. Now this is started now. This is a very good initiative. I will also tell my friends and family to also get into this, so that people know what are our opinions, what a Kashmiri thinks about rest of the India, or what a Kashmiri wants. If in case you can take it to the higher authority or to different people, they will not ask questions to my friends who are going to, or my relatives who are going to Delhi to pursue their education or anything. Are you a terrorist? Do you want to be a part of India, or do you want to be a part of Pakistan? Now there is the third question: do you want to be a part of China? No, we are taller than them, and we don't want to be with them. So what we want is we want peace. We from the starting itself, we have always respected our guests who come to Kashmir. Kashmir is known for Kashmiriyat. That means we love our guests. Even if in case I don't have a hotel, if in case you guys come, you are most welcome at my place.
That's wonderful to hear. So again, I really thank the audience for being with us, and of course, I thank you, Mr. Asif. It's been wonderful. It's been wonderful talking to you, and of course, I have to thank my colleagues, Ananya and Bhavya. I'm glad we had quite a fruitful conversation. We covered up multiple aspects, and hopefully in the future we have even more conversations, and we can
Definitely.
we can bust these myths, and we can finally bridge the gap between us.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for such a positive conversation, sir, for giving us another perspective that we don't get to see too much. Good luck on your call center and your future ventures, and again, Eid Mubarak again.
Thank you very much.
All right.